What's going on, everybody? Dave here with a Stihl HS82R hedger. Gas-powered hedger, obviously. And it is very easy to use. It's a good idea to, periodically maybe lubricate the blades through here, whatever lubricant you prefer. It'll help it, move nice and smoothly. So you should do that, maybe every other use or every 3 or 4 uses, something like that. Just depends. But I'm just going to show you how to start it. And anytime this is the premix 2-stroke. I personally always use non-ethanol fuel in any of these types of vehicles. Either lawnmower, chainsaw, weed eater, hedger, a leaf blower. Any kind of vehicle or thing that maybe you don't use it all that often. So if you use standard pump gas in any of these motors, it can cause a problem because most pump gas has a good bit of ethanol in it, and when that fuel sits in the carburetor for very long, or when it evaporates out of the carburetor, it can leave a residue that can cause problems. So personally, I always use non-ethanol fuel, and I put some stabilizer in the gas also, and use a good quality premix oil as well. Of course, your fuel goes right in here. Has some neat little mechanisms, how these little flip-up deals. Before you start it, it's a good idea to go ahead and make sure it's full of fuel, obviously, but it's a good idea to shake it around a little bit. And then you will prime the carburetor with this little bulb right here. Just push it in a couple times until you see fuel in the bulb. You'll see it right in there. And then you always want to set the choke, so you'll push down on this guy and turn it all the way to the fully choked position, and the kill switch is automatically on at all times, so there's really no on or off. You would cut the engine off with that, but it springs back into the on position at all times. And also, the cool thing about this particular hedger is you can tilt the handle depending on what you want to do with it. If you're cutting like this, but you would prefer to be able to go like this easier, you can actually pull back on this guy. Then you can still hold it like here, just a more ergonomic position. So it's kind of cool. So you can tilt it any number of different ways depending on how you're needing to hold it. So that's a pretty cool feature. Anyway, let's go ahead and fire it up real quick. Right there, make sure choke is on. And what you'll do, you'll pull it a time or two, and when you hear it try and start, then you might want to turn the choke back to the middle position, and it should fire right off. Usually you don't need to use any throttle when the engine's cold, especially. So I'll just show you what I mean here. We got it fully choked right now, and you'll listen for it to try and fire off. Choke is still on. As soon as you give it throttle, the choke turns itself off. So give it a couple of moments to warm up now. So what's cool about this one is you don't have to turn the choke off. It does it by itself. As soon as you hit the throttle, basically. I see the blades could use a little bit of lubrication, so I'm going to do that real quick. You can use pretty much anything, but I like to use a good motorcycle chain lube. And just a little bit of the spray on both sides. Like so. Now you've got an idle adjustment right there. You can use just a medium Phillips head screwdriver. Adjust that. Now once it sounds like it's warmed up, it should clear out, and you know, when you hit the throttle, it should really tack up high, you know, when it's nice and warmed up. As far as high and low carburetor adjustments, that's in here as well. But, you know, it's set pretty properly from the factory, so you shouldn't have to make any adjustments to it. But if you notice that the rev is not nice and clean once it warms up, you would make the adjustment to the high setting on the left side here. Usually, you know, it's only about a quarter of a turn that it's adjustable, so you just listen to it. Anyway, let's go use it at some hedges up top and we'll see how it does. Now when you're finished using it, all you have to do is hit the kill switch right here, and it automatically springs back to the on position. I mean, there's a little bit of maintenance you could do to it depending on what conditions you use it in. Get you a flat screwdriver to remove this cover right here. So you just loosen this screw right here, pull the cover off, and there's your air filter. Now, just make sure there's no debris or leaves or anything in it, but if it looks very dirty, pull it up, give it a little inspection. If it looks dirty, you should replace it, and it has a part number on the back side of it there, but I'll put a link down below where you can get this filter. You can take some carburetor cleaner every so often and maybe spray it into this hole right here, and that can help keep gunk and debris out of the carburetor. But if everything looks okay in there, put your filter back in place. And then the adjustments I was telling you about, you got your idle screw right there, which takes just a medium Phillips head, and then you got the two high and low idle or speed adjusters. And let's see what type of, looks like a Torx type of bit, but let's find out which exactly type of wrench you'll need to adjust these if necessary. Well, unfortunately, even my smallest 1/4 inch ratchet socket will not fit in there. So I'm sure you need a proprietary OEM steel wrench to make any adjustments to the high and low circuit for the carburetor. I've had this for a couple of years now though, and I've never had to make any adjustments to it. Now I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, where the weather and the altitude are not all that extreme. So if you live in an extreme environment of high altitude or extremely dry conditions, you might need to make some adjustments to the carburetor. So I'll see if I can find a link online for the specific tool to get into these guys here. Unfortunately, I did not have it in my large collection of tools. Anyway, so we'll put the lid back on here. It just kind of put it around the choke right there first, and then just sort of flex it and just tighten the screw back down. And it may be a good idea to take a wrench. Now all these are Torx bits on the back here. Take a wrench and just check everything, make sure nothing's loose or falling off of it. Let's see what size Torx bits these are. Okay, these fasteners on the underside here are a T25 Torx. So you just check them, make sure that nobody is loose or about to fall off or anything like that. And like I said, I've had this guy for a couple of years now, and I've never had anything go wrong with it or fall off of it or anything of that nature. But it's always a good idea to check things like this periodically. All good. Check the handle as well. Does that. Now with these here, you don't want them extremely tight. In fact, you probably want them where they are from the factory, because if you tighten them too much, it'll bind up the blades and they won't be able to move. So just make sure they're not hand tight. And these are all seem to be good. There's really not much, to this guy. Basic maintenance. And when you're done using it for the entire season, it might be a good idea to empty the gas tank here, or just run it until it completely goes dry. Because if you leave fuel in these, you know, the fuel will evaporate and it can cause a problem within the fuel system and the carburetor. So sometimes it's good practice just to empty the fuel completely out, if it's going to be parked for the for the winter, or when you're not going to be using it. And of course, always refer to your owner's manual on anything as far as using it, or spare parts and that sort of thing. But it's a pretty straightforward device. And if you needed to shut it off and then restart it, possibly as far as in a few minutes, it's possible that you don't have to apply the choke at all. If any, you'll have to put it in the middle section of the choking, because that'll be full choke, half choke, and no choke. So it may depend, like if it's been sitting for a few minutes but you still feel that it's warm, it might fire right off without any choke at all. So let's find out. And of course, I don't have to tell you, but be very careful around these blades. They can be sharp and they can damage you and your skin and get hung on clothing and that sort of thing, or your pets or whatever. So be careful when using a device like this. Anyway, once again, this is the Stihl HS82R hedger, and I use a lot of Stihl components. Oh, and the spark plug also is right behind this black cap here. So if you're doing a little tune-up for the season, that's where your spark plug will be found. Just pull this boot off right here, use a spark plug wrench and get that guy out. I'll put a link down below where you can get that spark plug also. And you should be able to get it from any Ace Hardware as well as online. Anyway, that's it. Check out our other videos. We got all kinds of stuff about stuff around the house, and cars, trucks, dirt bikes, motorcycles, Harley Davidsons, Yamahas, tinkering with stuff on your car. So check out other videos, and we're always posting something new. So check it out, and like, subscribe, follow, and look for the thumbnail links to pop up at the end of this video that'll guide you into different areas on the channel that you might like. And that's it. Biker Dave signing off. Doing some hedging today. Y'all have a good day.